inside of every woman is 1,000 women.
Yeah.
And, right.
True. Welcome in. I am Mia with Spiritual Society. I'm so happy to have you here. And I am so excited to be here with Adam Roa, who is an artist. He is a coach. He's a spoken word poet. He has multiple viral videos on his poetry, on his relationship knowledge, from uncoupling to feminine versus masculine energy. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Mia. It's a pleasure.
It is. Okay, so I have all kinds of questions that I want to ask you today.
All right, dive right in.
So first I want to ask about this viral video that you had, and you spoke on how the feminine can never be satisfied, as you said, can never be satisfied in relationship. So can you expand on that?
Yeah, I did not say that exactly. Just for the record, because I can already feel the
Write in and tell us. Yeah.
Yeah, so what I was speaking to is the dynamics of masculine and feminine energy.
Yeah.
And for women specifically, and the womb that you carry. Mm-hmm. In spiritual realms, we understand that the soul comes from somewhere, and it drops in, and it comes through this portal that is the womb. And that means that inside of your body, you have a doorway between earth, life, and wherever souls come from, which is called the infinite, right? And that's 1 foot between life and death, which is why also giving birth, there has been so many deaths during birth. It is you walk that space, and I speak to all these women and doulas that have these experiences of you go into a completely altered ceremonial state between life and death. And it just sounds so amazing. I can't wait till I get to experience it even as a father. But the reason why this is important to understand is because that connection to the infinite that you have means that you're always aware that there is more available. Mm-hmm. And this is something that I think a lot of men get very, very triggered by. And it can be very difficult when you feel as if you're working your ass off to give everything you can to your woman, and she's always aware that there is more. There's more available. There's more intimacy. There's more connection. There's more play. There's more pleasure. There's more abundant. There's more available. And this is why we've seen throughout time that women have been the oracles. They've been the muse. They've been utilized in that way as seers of vision for what can come. And that's not to say that men can't have that too, but it is different within the feminine energetic. Mm-hmm. And so to understand that to be in relationship with a woman who is aware that there's more available can be quite triggering, but it can also be the greatest gift because she's able to see in me something I can't even see in myself. She's able to see for our life something that I can't even see. And when I'm not threatened by it, but I learn how to activate my own and cultivate my own masculine energy in response to that in a healthy way, it's how we now create divine union. It's how we create true twin flame soulmate type relationships where the growth of the two of us together is exponential more than the sum of its parts.
So it can be very tricky to find that healthy masculine energy and a healthy dynamic between the two energies. I guess if you were going to coach someone who was asking about trying to bring out healthy masculine energy in either their partner or someone they were just starting to date or a situationship, what would be your advice on her tapping into that energy to help bring that out in a person?
So specifically a woman that wants to cultivate more masculine from their male partner.
Yes.
There's a misconception first and foremost that to be in the masculine is always to be leading and to be in the feminine is always to be following. That is a massive misconception, and I think it's a major disservice because the feminine leads all the time, but leads in a very different way. The woman in period times who would walk by a man that she was interested in and drop the handkerchief, right? Drop the handkerchief and keep walking so that the man stops and runs after her to give her back the handkerchief. Who's leading in that scenario? The feminine. The woman is leading in that scenario, but she's doing it in a very different way than just approaching the man and saying, hey, I'm interested in you. That is a very yang approach. It's a very masculine approach. And so the same is true in subtle ways within our relationships, where if you disagree, for example, with a decision that your man is making, you can just chastise him and debate him on it. But that's a very yang meets yang energy. And what that will do is activate my masculine to now go into fight, flight, freeze. I'm now in that competition aspect of yang meeting yang. And instead, if as the feminine energy, you let me know your desires, and I'm aware that by giving you what you want and meeting you in your desire, it'll make you happy. It will fill you up with love. It will activate more of your feminine essence. All of these things that are subtle, and how you communicate it is based off of the relationship you're in. But when I know that, I am naturally designed to want to fulfill that. Every man that I've ever asked this question goes, yeah, when my partner tells me that she wants something, I want to give it to her. A lot of times, though, what the woman doesn't realize is that you asking for something that you don't have will trigger a man's like deep fears about not being enough. Because what if I try so hard and I fail at giving you what you're asking for? What if I just don't even know how? I remember 8 years into my 10-year relationship, she asked me, she said, I want more intimacy in our relationship. I had no idea what she meant. No clue. And of course that triggered the part of me that I don't know how to even give this to you. But what it did was create that polarity where I wanted to, and then I did the work with her. We hired coaches, we went to retreats, we did the work to create more intimacy, and it expanded both of us so much. And that's the beauty of how the feminine can lead.
You went through, you had a 10-year relationship, you mentioned, and what was that breakup process like for you? Was there something similar going on?
I actually made a reality show called The Art of Choosing Love. It's on YouTube, and I basically hired a camera crew that followed me around the world for a year to show people what it looked like to heal from that breakup. And
turning your experience into a learning process for other people as well.
And turning it into art. I think art is such a powerful way for us to transmute and transform emotions into beauty. And for me, I tell people, just spoiler alert, the show is basically me crying all over the world. And so just pick an exotic location and I'm crying there. But yeah, so the learning how to, because I was in that relationship from 23 to 33 years old.
Wow.
And so I came out of it feeling as if I was 40-year-old virgin from the movie. I had no idea. Tinder was not a thing when I was back last dating, and I didn't know how to be. And most importantly, I didn't know how to feel safe in the dating world. I didn't know how to feel safe just as myself, because all of my safety had been assigned and created while in this partnership. And so when that partnership was gone, suddenly I was left facing off with all of these parts of me that were insecure and full of doubt and really didn't know how to date.
Yeah. Do you believe that people can keep contact with, like, did you stay in contact with that person during that in that year?
We did. We were able to stay friends for probably about a year and a half. Yeah. And then she got married, and there's just a, natural ebb and flow to things. And I do believe that you can stay friends with past partners. I don't know how close of a friendship you can have. I think it's amazing when I see people that are really close and they used to date. For me, what I've found is I'm friendly, but I'm not calling up and FaceTiming every week with any of my exes, for example.
Why do you think some breakups are so hard? Pain and fire and disaster and tower energy from the tarot, or just, we can consciously do this. Well, or is that just choice?
Well, I want to ask you first, have you had a breakup that's easy?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah.
What made it easy?
There was a sort of understanding that if we were meant to be, then we were going to be, and that he wasn't choosing me. So it was just sort of a very grown-up enlightenment space of like, oh, he's not choosing me, and that's okay. Like, I choose me, so we're going to go find someone
And
who
so
does choose
there
me.
wasn't a painful grieving process to that.
There was, but it was different. It wasn't easy. It was still painful. I still had to grieve it, but
Right.
but I certainly got back up on my feet and had a good understanding that it wasn't meant to be.
Yeah, I think that the nuance to what you just shared is really important, which is that I think every breakup is painful. I
Yeah.
think that every breakup requires grieving. I think every single separation is a death process that we go through. And what can make it harder is when we enter into a space of suffering. And I think that suffering is created when we resist what is.
Yeah.
And so what I hear in your response is that you both kind of accepted this just is, and it sucks and it's painful, but it is, and we accept that. And so while it may be painful, there doesn't have to be suffering, because I think pain is inevitable, but suffering is a choice. And so all of the most suffering style breakups I've been through have been when I've resisted the fact that it's happening. I can't believe this is happening. I don't want this to happen. I wish it could be different. All of that creates a ton of suffering and can make the entire process a lot more difficult.
Oh, I love that. That is so wise. Did you have a moment in your life where you realized, like, I'm needlessly suffering? I could not be in this space and accept this?
Yeah, I call that Wednesday. Yeah, no, for sure. It's
Tuesday, Wednesday,
yeah,
Thursday,
exactly.
Friday.
I mean, it's just, I think that in many ways, the game is that, right? The game of life is, wow, look at the resistance I'm creating for myself.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
This thing that, and when I say resistance, nothing grows without resistance. Everything, literally everything on earth is growing just in the resistance of gravity. And so the resistance is necessary. It's a crucial component to how we grow, how we get stronger. But the suffering component, where we add our own level of resistance to life's resistance, that's unnecessary. Imagine the metaphor of swimming upstream, right?
Yes.
We are in a flow, and that flow is a form of resistance. It is taking us in the direction it's going to take us, and we can choose to flow with it or against it. And when we flow against it, things tend to not go so well. And I feel that personal development, my spiritual journey, everything from tarot readings to astrology readings or plant medicine ceremonies, all of it helps me find areas where I'm swimming upstream and surrender even more into the flow of life.
How can somebody who's dealing with an immediate, intense heartbreak start to stand back up again, or start to move on, start to move into something new?
That's one of the hardest places to be
Yeah.
when we're going through a breakup. And I think it's important to understand the breakup process, because a lot of times people feel as though, okay, I've just gone through a breakup and now I'm back into the pool of being single. But there's an in-between state. So there's being in a relationship, there's a breakup process, and then you go back to being single again, which to me is when we're now ready to reopen our hearts. And so the reason why breakups are so devastating is because they collapse our past, present, and future all at the same time. Meaning you get into a car accident, well, your present just dissolved and your future may be greatly affected as a result of it, but you don't look through the lens of everything in your past led you to this moment of this car accident where you didn't see the red light or whatever. But in a breakup, you have your present moment that collapses, you have your future dreams that have collapsed, but also your entire past is now filtered through a lens of everything that was said, everything that was done, all of the relationship led to this point where it ultimately led to a breakup. And so that's a dissolving of identity, past, present, and future. And so it can be incredibly painful and devastating to so many people. And the process that we are now in that after post breakup is one where we need to take the lessons and leave the baggage so that we can now embody a new version of ourselves. And that new version of ourselves will not be attracted to the type of people we were attracting previously. And then, and only then, are we really able to move on and start to call in the type of relationships that are meant for us in our next chapter.
I love that. I know you have very accomplished clients who are CEOs, professional athletes. When it comes to love and you're getting that sort of, that feedback of, is there something that you wish you could say that's just like, this is what would fix everything for you?
I think I would be a multi-trillionaire if I had that answer. But what I would say is, so there's a line in my poem, You Are Who You've Been Looking For. There's a line in it, which is treat yourself like someone you love.
Yes.
And I think that there's so many layers to that specifically. But when we are struggling in relationship, I remind people that our external relationships are going to mirror back to us aspects of our inner world that need to be looked at, worked on, moved through. And so if we continue to see the same patterns show up in our romantic partnerships, there's something in us that's saying, hey, I'm going to keep giving you the same lesson until you make the shift and the change, and then we can move on to the next curriculum. So please, could you make a different choice in this scenario? But what will often happen is, and this goes from the multimillionaire CEOs to just the random Joe on the street, the parts of us that don't feel worthy of the type of relationship that we actually want, wind up accepting love that is less than we actually deserve. And the truth is that if we are unwilling to hold our own boundaries for what we will or will not accept in relationship, no one else will. And so it's about starting internally and figuring out, okay, where am I allowing in a less than love into my life so that I can see the parts of me that need healing and need to be worked on and strengthened so I can call in a healthier relationship dynamic.
If we were to give people one, this is your entryway action step to feeling worthy enough to accept that love, what would that one entry action step be?
I would start personally by figuring out the spaces that you still judge yourself, shame yourself, blame yourself, and don't feel worthy of the type of relationship that you want. I think that human beings are corks in water. We naturally, effervescently rise.
I love that.
And so it's about cutting the tethers and the weights that are holding us back. The voices in our head that we picked up as a child telling us that we weren't smart enough or we're not pretty as our sister was or whoever. All of those voices and societal conditioning that lead us to believe that we are less than, cutting those away, and naturally we will begin to rise.
I love that. And you talk in your poem about things that you feel, maybe come up that are self-conscious things. And I get asked a lot about confidence questions from women about how to get more confidence in order to feel like you are willing to only accept what is right for you. What do you think is a way to start to actually appreciate love, filter into that confidence, to be open to accepting the love that you're truly is in alignment with you?
Well, I think that confidence is built from experience over time, and that's one of those really tricky things because people want to feel confident immediately. It's just I've been so insecure in relationships and very jealous and feel unworthy. But I want to feel confident.
Yeah.
That's a journey.
Yeah.
That's something where over time, consistently showing up for yourself, consistently making the types of decisions that indicate to you that you are that new person, that's how you build confidence.
Yeah.
And so the idea that you're going to build confidence in your room by yourself, not dating, not being in relationship, good luck.
Yeah.
Good luck. You'll get a certain type of confidence maybe, but you're going to have to get back in the game. And I think that there are some healing that we can only do on our own, and there's some healing that we can only do in relationship. And I feel as though the most important thing we can do is learn how to identify healthy relationships, safe relationships, co-create safe relationships, because the amount of damage that's done in a toxic, abusive relationship can take years to undo, to rebuild your confidence after that. And so instead of let's figure out how to rebuild that confidence over time, let's also focus on how to identify a healthy relationship from the beginning, so we don't spend a year or 2 years in the type of relationship that takes us 5 years of therapy to get over.
Yes. So after you got out of a huge relationship and you had to start dating again, and there weren't apps and, but you were getting into the dating pool again. Yeah. I'm sure you must have failed a few times. Your confidence wasn't there yet. There are some bad dates in there.
I guess. I guess so. Were there? I don't know.
What did that look like? Did you start dating? It's hard to get back out there. I have a lot of clients who come to me that's hard to get back out. It's hard to feel okay putting yourself out there again. What did that look like for you?
It was messy, and it was trial and error. And I treated it like any other skill that I wanted to get better at in a lot of ways. Yeah. And so, for example, I had realized that, okay, from 23 years old to 33, basically my whole adult life, I was with one woman, monogamous. And so I had very little experience of the different archetypes of the feminine that were out there. And so I remember thinking to myself, okay, instead of just going in this one direction that's safe and what I'm used to, let me try and date outside the realm of what I normally go for, and let's see what that's like. And I feel, to me, it became a learning experience. I treated it like a learning experience, something where I could learn what I liked, what I didn't like. Yeah. I could learn how I show up and how it's received by women and different types of women, and how to communicate differently. And it helped me develop a much more thorough toolkit, because inside of every woman is 1,000 women. Yeah. And right.
True.
And so the ability to understand these different archetypes was so important for me. Yeah. And I feel that would be, I guess, my advice for people getting back out there is not putting the pressure on, I'm dating to find my next serious relationship. Yes. Dating doesn't have to be just that's the entire goal. Yes. Dating is an actual period of time where you are going to learn about yourself in such a unique way. You're going to learn about other human beings in such a unique way. And I had a mentor who said something to me I really liked, which he said, to him, dating was about building a Rolodex of the most interesting people he could find.
I love that.
And he said a lot of them wind up, we have one date and we become friends. It doesn't become anything more than that. But I loved that idea that it was about the experience more than anything.
If you had somebody who came to you right now that said, I want to do 2 things, 2 big action steps to get me into my dream relationship, what would those 2 things be that you send them off into the world with?
I would have them get a reading from you.
Me too.
Yeah, no, I would invite them. I would invite them to seek counsel that allows them to relax into the timing. I think the anxiety around it creates contraction, and that contraction will push away. It doesn't open up space for things to find their way in. When you're saying that I want a partnership, you're saying I want something to enter into my life, and you have to create the space for it. I know when I got my reading from you, there were a number of things in there that helped me and corroborated, I think is the word, the timing that I had already been feeling, but to see it in the reading was just an exhale and allowed my nervous system to go, okay, that's what I'm feeling, and that feels really good. So that's one big piece. The second piece, and let me tie this into the masculine and feminine energetics a little bit, because what I just described is the yin, the ability to relax your nervous system into the beingness to create expansion. And so the other part of this is the yang. What are you doing actively to become that match and to call in that thing? There's a big misconception about what this looks like, because I hear people talking about this as a simple exercise that people are often told to do, which is make a list of the characteristics you want in a partner and then say, am I that list? And the truth is that that's not how it works exactly. Say I want honesty in a partner. Technically, I don't actually need to be honest to attract a partner who's honest. I need to be a safe space for honesty in order to attract a partner who's honest. Meaning, I need to be someone who's not going to judge you, shame you, get angry at you when you bring your honesty to me. And so it is a little nuanced, but I do think becoming the right match to the characteristics you want is key. Because here you can go around saying, I want an honest partner. And yet every time you have a partner who says, hey, I don't really like when you do this, you get super triggered and attack them. You're never going to attract someone who's going to be fully honest with you.
Gold. That's gold. I love that.
I was just listening to a podcast, someone talking about this, about dating apps. Dating apps can't be a passive thing. It can't just be, oh, I just jump on there like a few minutes and whatever. If you're going to use a dating app, you use the dating app as if it is a tool for you to get what you want. And same thing, when we approach dating, it doesn't mean that you have to go on tons of dates, but you should be putting yourself out in social situations where you can meet people on a more regular basis. If you're just someone who stays at home and watches movies by yourself or plays video games all day, where are you going to meet that person? Sure, the universe can just plop them into your path somehow, but you've created very few opportunities for that to happen. And so meet the universe halfway. Make it easier. And that's the yang component of going out and becoming and doing the things necessary to attract what you want.
Okay, we must choose some questions. So we have had people writing into us to give you questions.
It always makes me a little nervous. I was like, what are they really asking? It's like,
we're about to find out.
Yeah, okay.
Let's see. So I'm going to start with this question. And this question is, what are the key questions someone can ask themselves to determine if their relationship is sustainable? This is from Joanne.
Okay. Question number one is it worth it? Do you have the aspects that nourish you and nurture you and fill up your cup? Because I think a lot of times when things get hard, I know this is true for me. I've been in relationships that have gotten very hard. And in those, I am either remembering the times that have been great and I can focus on the areas that our relationship nurtures me and nourishes me, or I realize that I don't have many of those and everything I'm trying to lean on is something that I'm hoping we get to, but I don't have much evidence that it ever was that thing. It's always been hard, or it was always working on this thing or this thing or this thing in the hopes that we would someday down the line have that nourishing, loving relationship. I think, is it worth it is a huge key. And two, do you have the patience? Because whoever you meet is going to be imperfectly perfect. There's going to be things that you have to work on as a couple. Do you have the patience to go through that curriculum? Do you have the patience to hold space for their growth and their learning in whatever their journey is, the same that they're going to have to hold it for you in ways that you may not even realize? And the final piece that I'll add for that is, are you the person you want to be in that partnership? And if the answer is no, meaning that you're a version of yourself you don't like, you let go of the dreams and the goals that are important to you, you find yourself not living in a way that feels in integrity to how you want to live. If you're not the person you want to be while in that dynamic and around that person, it's time to take a really good long look at that relationship. It may not be the one for you. Excellent
answer. Okay, our question number 2. Thank you, Joanne, for asking us that question. All right, so this is from Michelle, and she asks, I've been on a spiritual journey and a personal growth journey. I'm finding it hard to encourage my partner to do the same. What do I need to do to have him explore this with me when there's so much resistance? Thank you for asking that, Michelle.
And this is normally going to be women asking this question because women are predominantly further along in the personal development journey. By the way, this is also because biologically, as women, you are more predisposed to talking through things, sharing emotions, being in a dynamic with other women that is like that. And that's part of actually how the brain develops. I learned that. That's really interesting. And so personal development is all about that. It's all about communication and the exploration of emotions. So it has attracted women into it at a far greater rate. And so this dynamic is very common between men and women. And I would say that this goes back to the conversation we were having about how the feminine leads. Believe it or not, your man wants to be the man that can give you all of your dreams. That is what I found to be true across the board. Whether they're willing to take the action to do that, that's a completely different story. And that's for you to determine and find out. But what I would recommend is that you figure out the ways in which you can help your man feel safe enough to try to become that version of himself, and know that even if he fails along the way, that you will not reject him, that he will not be seen as less than, he will still be your king. Because if you're in a dynamic for years that has been a certain way, and now you're on this journey and you're changing, that alone can be very scary to the man, especially if it's in this direction of personal development and emotional intelligence that's not coming naturally to him, and it's not how he was raised. And in many ways, society has told him that it's not what men do. It can be a very scary thing to see your partner go in that direction. And so to create safety for your man is a huge part of that. And then also make it fun. Make it fun and playful and sexy and in whatever way speaks to his soul. Find ways to do that as well. Because I think if it's not fun, it's not sustainable anyway.
If it's not fun, it's not sustainable anyway. Okay, number 3. I'm going deep this one, all the way to the bottom. So let's see what we have. So for number 3, we have a question from Ashley. And Ashley is asking, what's the biggest red flag that a relationship won't go the distance?
Oh, Ashley. Ashley, you already have it in your mind right now. You don't need me to say it.
That's the
You
red
already
flag.
know what it is. That's why you're asking. I think the biggest red flag in relationship, honestly, is whether or not you can communicate openly and honestly and with respect. Let's say you could communicate anything, no matter how difficult of a subject it is. You could bring that to your partner, and it would be able to be communicated in a way that even if feelings got hurt, it would be handled with respect, that you would listen to each other, and that you would work it out together. I think that is the biggest green flag and also the biggest red flag. If you don't have the safety to communicate, I don't know how you're going to last.
Love that. Thank you, everybody who sent in questions. Thank you, Adam, so very much for your presence, your wisdom, for being here, for sharing with the world, for sharing with me today. I'm so happy and grateful for you to be here.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. And thank you everyone who wrote in the questions, and for everyone giving us your time and energy and attention to watch and listen.